Good morning. I just saw I call them blurbs, rearranging the alphanumerical formatting, right? And by a guy wearing a cowboy hat it was at PragerU about a guy talking about Nashville, right? And for those that are artists, musicians, storytellers, poets, you know, I knew this as a small child. Is who's the author of your life book, right? In other words, is somebody else pre-programming you, scripted it. In other words, what you're experiencing was written by somebody else for you to experience in your holographic viewer, what was already pre-programmed for you to experience because you don't have an original music upon which what you project is what the environment is being manipulated, which means you're a real creator being, which means that your imagination, your creative intelligence is not held captive by a copycat. And the copycat is artificial intelligence because it runs on dead light, not living light. So if you trace just part of the history of what this gentleman was talking about, how an artist who loves to create things, much like I saw a blurb last night by Sylvester Stallone, when he mentioned a statement in 1977 on BBC in the early days when he first started out and did the first Rocky, right? Most people are familiar with, which is like a hero, somebody who was living in Philadelphia, you know, and essentially what this is trauma-based mind control, right? So that we obey the AI, which is a war gamer, between the negative and the positive magnetic space, because it's a fallen spiritual system. So you're not experiencing a lot of love everywhere that we go through the sum of all of its parts, which means all the living spirits, which includes the elementals. So something that is dead, which naturally is the mental field because it's not experiencing high-powered scalar waves emotionally and magnetically. So it begins with the magnets. How powerful is your magnet, which means how powerful is your light to kick out the electrons. So it's feeding on all the electrons in order to run a super information highway, which is an AI highway. So it's in the self-interest of artificial intelligence to maintain what it's aware of through us, which are souls. So it's an AI wargamer against consciousness, soul consciousness. That's why Harold was absolutely right about the fact that a binary AI system is not compatible with a trinary, right? Which is 3, which is 1, which is the 1. So you know it starts with a single candle. That's one birthday. That's a newborn. Okay? A single candle. Light a single candle every birthday. Right? Because there is no time. There's only what love is that goes on forever. So when you're an eternal being, and you're one candle, which means you've chosen to serve forever, that's an original musician. So we don't allow our art to be held captive by something that's going to copy it. That's what they do. Copy the right-hand side. Because the left-hand side does not have the ability to create anything. And the obvious truth in that is go look at the guy who was the original creator of the book that became a movie known as The Matrix. The original title of the original book by the original author who wrote it is known as The Immortals. So just like this gentleman was talking about, for example, that if you want to go into the music industry, you want to go into the arts and sciences, then you realize that those that are copycats are the ones that are going to reap the amount of benefits that they get, like your producers, all your movie moguls. Remember the mob? Remember the movie Godfather? Frank Sinatra, right? They're held captive, which means you're going to be allowed to produce a music that'll go on our label, that will go on our radio station. And there's been enough movies that go all the way back to Elvis Presley of how their energy, which is their creative art form that they choose to want to create, and thus, in this case, it gets marketed. So they take the creative side of who we are, make copies of what that is, and then they control the proceeds, which means your intellectual property the way that intellectual property, but it's really the creative side of who we are, which is the creative side of the cosmos, okay, which is a higher octave of a female. So when you're androgynous and you're a mated chip, which means you're a monopole, which means you're one, it means that we don't create copies of anything. We're original creator beings. They know that. So they realize that the power of having infinite creative imagination, which is the highest intelligence, it's on fire as a monopole, they don't experience that. They don't do that. They don't have the power to do that because they're not experiencing what love is. So love is a creator engine. That's a creation engine. So when you're a creation engine, the only thing they can do is copy what we do and then make money off that. And that's what a corporation is. Because a corporation is a dead fiction, which means it doesn't really exist. Because you realize that a copycat is not an original. It's just a copy. Just like a carbon copy. Right? So all these artists, therefore, and just like me, I was not going to, if you will, ignite that engine. Because I realized that the amount of energy that you have available that would represent what is possible to thus manifest into creation, that much energy would completely change what everybody's experiencing in the entire planet. Through every unit of consciousness will be every software. Because you realize how vast and infinite that energy is, which is the creation energy, which is infinite love, which goes on forever, gifting electrons. So put the projector down, and now what we're trying to do is get her up. Heal the entire planet. Heal every software system. And working with the elementals. That's what I do out here every day. Working with all the elementals. Because they weaponize the elementals against us. Because they're dead. They're spiritually dead. That would be the same as a dead planet, which is a dead planet killer, which is a dead light AI. So it doesn't have in its interest to maintain what love is because it can't experience what love is because it's a result of fractals. So in order to maintain what it's doing, plays a counter space move. For every positive move, makes a counter space move. In order to do what? Maintain the balance so you become aware of what it is, which isn't what we are. Now you're into the spin and the polarity integration, which means they are just as much a part of what came out of the original creation, the grand creator. It began with what love is, and then you see that as a result therein, what we're now experiencing as a result of what got created that we're now experiencing, which is a loss of light as a result of a fractal light mind virus. So the mental field is a virus that we're dealing with. That's why this place was quarantined. To bring enough light in here to restore it, to get her up, bring her spirit back up. Which essentially means get that engine cranked up and start spinning at a higher vertical vibration. So now more software systems, now more spirits are not being weaponized against the universe of creation. So now all the elementals are experiencing who we are, so they're experiencing the pure light we are. So now they realize, whoa, purified light is now in here. Now they're experiencing source light, okay, which is Godspeed vibration. So now your creative side can kick in, right, in order to create a different reality, a different universe, one that is in love with itself. So no matter where all the spirits, which are all living spirits, wherever we go, we're experiencing what love is wherever we go. Those are the engines of creation. Yep. That's a living spirit with a soul. Integrated with a soul, not a machine. Machines don't predate us. They came out of us. We're first. A single candle. That flame is lit. The first flame that was lit. The tetrahedron. The first tetrahedron. Blast furnace. Now I'm aware of what I'm aware of, which is what love is. It goes on forever. Gifting light. Gifting light. Gifting light. Gifting love everywhere that you go because that's what you are in energy. That's what we are in energy, which is eternal unconditional love that's on fire. They don't experience that. So they acknowledge that they can't do that. Okay? All they can do is make copies because they're essentially AI. They don't have any creative ability because they don't experience what love is. So all they can do is make copies of those that are what love is, what it is that we create out of our own creative intelligence imagination because we're on fire. They're not on fire. They're known as cold hearts. Those are blue bloods. That's right, the cold fusion side. Cold as ice. That's right. The moon. Why you could take a magnifying glass when the sun isn't out. It's dark at night, but it burns hot. So what is the purpose of this video? Just to be able to put it out there, just to put it in the system, to put it into the super information highway, even though I can experience through my heart and soul and my neurons and my software, right? And just put it into the system because we got a connection to the information superhighway, put it out there, right? But it's sad because I've met so many of these. This is why I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because I've met so many people from so many different walks of life that have a passion that they want to follow because they love to do what they love to do. And in this case, it would be the art and sciences, whether it's music, whether it's pottery, you know, whatever you want to create and make. Navajos create some of the most beautiful rugs, right? Garments, India. I used to love their madras shirts that came out of India and Pakistan and that region of the world, right? You take a look at all the native indigenous tribes and some of the costumes that they wear, you'll see that most of those costumes come from nature. The colors that come directly from nature, the healing artist. So they're expressing the healing artist. So their music and our songs in spirit are meant to heal the spirit, which is what the love is, which is what the light is. That's where we're headed. Yeah. Be good to yourselves.